Finally. You see this? This is what happens when you don't listen to the HOA. This neighborhood is a no-cop zone. You've been warned.
I never thought it would come to this.
That was the moment Karen went from being a nuisance to becoming a felon. I've been a police officer for 12 years. 12 years of traffic stops, domestic disputes, late-night calls that turn your stomach, and paperwork that never ends. In all that time, I've dealt with dangerous people, armed suspects, career criminals, people who genuinely wanted to hurt me. But I have never, and I mean never, encountered someone as recklessly, stupidly, dangerously entitled as the woman who became my neighbor 3 months ago. Her name wasn't actually Karen, but honestly, it should have been legally changed at birth. For clarity's sake, that's what I'll call her. Let me back up, because this story doesn't start with an explosion in arson charges. It starts with something much more mundane: a driveway, a patrol vehicle, and a clipboard-wielding tyrant who genuinely believed she was above the law. I moved into Willow Creek Estates on a Tuesday in late September. Quiet neighborhood, tree-lined streets, well-maintained homes, the kind of place where people jog with strollers and kids still play street hockey. After years of apartment living near the precinct, thin walls, traffic noise, sirens at all hours, this felt like paradise. A modest 3-bedroom with a 2-car garage and a driveway wide enough to actually park without blocking the sidewalk. Perfect. I moved my personal vehicle into the garage and parked my assigned patrol car in the driveway. Standard procedure for officers who take their vehicles home, approved by the city. Part of our community policing initiative. Visible presence, faster response times, crime deterrence. I'd been there less than 48 hours when she appeared. I opened it to find a woman in her early 50s standing on my porch like she owned it. Blonde hair sprayed into submission, pastel blazer, reading glasses on a chain, and, of course, a clipboard. "Hello, welcome to the neighborhood. I'm Karen Mitchell, HOA president. I just wanted to discuss a small concern about your vehicle situation." Small concern, right. Pause. She explained with a smile that never reached her eyes that patrol vehicles were not in keeping with the aesthetic standards of Willow Creek Estates, that they created an atmosphere of danger and corruption, that property values could be affected. I stayed polite, explained it was city property, part of my job, fully legal, and parked on my property that I paid for. She changed tone to cold. "I understand, officer, but the HOA has standards. I'm sure we can find a compromise." There was no compromise coming. I could hear it in her voice. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a declaration. The next morning, there was a letter on my windshield, printed on official HOA letterhead. "Notice of violation. Commercial vehicle parked in residential driveway. Section 7.4.2 of Community Bylaws prohibits commercial, industrial, or emergency service vehicles from overnight parking in visible areas. Fine, $250 per day. Compliance required within 72 hours. I checked the actual HOA bylaws that night, read every single page. Section 7.4.2 didn't exist. She'd made it up, completely fabricated a rule and slapped a fine on it like she was legislating from her living room. I wrote back, professionally, cited actual city ordinances, explained that municipal vehicles are explicitly exempt from HOA restrictions per state law, and politely suggested she consult the board's attorney before pursuing further action. That's when things escalated. "2 weeks in, Karen started showing up in person. First time I was washing the patrol car in my driveway on a Saturday morning. She appeared at the property line like a summoned demon. "This is unacceptable. You're washing a government vehicle with HOA water. This is misuse of community resources." "Ma'am, this is my water, from my house, that I pay for." "I'm documenting this. The board will hear about this." She took photos, measurements, notes on her clipboard like she was gathering evidence for a war crimes tribunal. The second confrontation happened when I was loading gear into the trunk after a shift. She stormed across the street, actually stopped, and got within 3 feet of me. "This vehicle is a blight. It's ruining our property values. You need to remove it or I will take action." "Ma'am, this is city property. Tampering with, damaging, or interfering with a police vehicle is a felony under state law. I'm advising you right now, do not touch this vehicle." Her face went red, actually red, like her blood pressure had spiked 40 points. "Are you threatening me? I have rights. This is my neighborhood. I've lived here for 15 years, and I will not be intimidated by some beat cop who thinks a badge makes him special." I stayed calm, told her again, do not touch the vehicle. Walked inside, locked the door, and I installed a dash cam with 24-hour parking surveillance. Best decision I ever made. For a week, things went quiet. Too quiet. Karen stopped leaving notes, stopped confronting me, stopped measuring my grass with a ruler. Yes, she'd been doing that too. I should have known, should have recognized that silence for what it was. Not surrender, planning. It was a Thursday afternoon. I'd worked a graveyard shift, midnight to 8 a.m., and came home exhausted. Stumbled into bed around 9, fell asleep instantly. At 2:47 p.m., I woke up to an explosion. Not a backfire, not fireworks, an explosion. I bolted out of bed, still in my t-shirt and sweatpants, ran to the window and saw flames. My patrol vehicle was on fire. Bright orange flames pouring from under the hood, black smoke billowing into the sky, glass shattered across the driveway. And standing 20 feet away, phone raised, filming, was Karen. She wasn't running, wasn't hiding. She was laughing. "There, you see this? This is HOA enforcement. This is what happens when you ignore the rules. You've been warned over and over, and now you've learned your lesson. This neighborhood is a no-cop zone. We don't want you here. We don't need you here." I didn't respond, didn't engage. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, gave my badge number and address. "This is Officer James Crawford, badge 472. I'm reporting arson and destruction of a government vehicle at my residence. Fire is active. Suspect is on scene. Send fire and backup immediately." Then I grabbed my fire extinguisher from the garage and started putting out the flames. Karen kept filming, kept laughing, like this was the greatest victory of her life. By the time the first fire truck arrived 4 minutes later, I'd knocked down most of the fire. The vehicle was totaled, hood melted, interior destroyed, electronics fried, but the fire was contained. Karen was still there, still filming, still smiling. She had no idea what she'd just done to herself. Fire department secured the scene. Then the police arrived. Then the detectives. Then the arson investigators. Karen tried to leave, actually started walking back toward her house like she was just going to stroll away from a felony. One of my colleagues, Officer Ramirez, a good cop, former Marine, stepped in front of her. "Ma'am, you need to stay here. Investigators have questions." "I have nothing to say. I was just documenting HOA violations. That vehicle was a hazard, and I took appropriate action." Appropriate action. She just confessed, on camera, to multiple officers. The arson investigator, a woman named Chen, 20 years on the job, had seen everything, approached Karen with a calmness that was almost scary. "Ma'am, did you set fire to this vehicle?" "Yes, I absolutely did. I was enforcing community standards." "Did you set fire to this vehicle? Yes or no?" Karen stopped, finally realized maybe that she'd stepped into something bigger than an HOA dispute. I was enforcing community standards." Chen nodded slowly, turned to the officers. "Cuff her." They arrested her right there, in her pastel blazer and pearls, handcuffed on her own street while neighbors watched from windows and driveways. She kept shouting about her rights, about HOA authority, about how she was being persecuted for doing her job. Nobody listened. The investigation moved fast, because here's the thing. When you destroy government property, especially a police vehicle, it's not just local cops investigating. The state police got involved, the district attorney's office, even the FBI took a look, because destruction of law enforcement assets can trigger federal charges in certain circumstances. The dashcam footage was damning. 24-hour surveillance, time-stamped, HD quality. It showed Karen approaching the vehicle at 2:34 p.m., looking around, opening a container, later identified as lighter fluid, pouring it over the hood and windshield, then stepping back, lighting a rag, tossing it, and filming the results while laughing. Arson investigators found accelerant residue all over the vehicle and the driveway, matched it to a container found in Karen's garage, her fingerprints on it. They also found a notebook in her house, detailed plans, dates, times I usually came home, notes about when the street was quiet. This wasn't a snap decision. This was premeditated. The charges came down like a hammer. Arson in the first degree, government property. Destruction of public property exceeding $100,000. Reckless endangerment, criminal mischief, malicious destruction of law enforcement equipment. Her bail was set at $250,000. She couldn't make it. Spent 3 months in county jail waiting for trial. She tried to fight it. Hired a lawyer who tried to argue HOA authority and community preservation, tried to claim I'd provoked her with aggressive parking. The prosecutor, a woman named Torres, absolute shark in the courtroom, played the dashcam footage. All of it. Karen pouring accelerant, Karen lighting the fire, Karen filming and laughing while government property burned. The defense rested early. There was nothing to say. Sentencing day arrived on a cold January morning. I was there, in uniform, not because I had to be, because I wanted to be. Karen sat at the defense table looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. No blazer, no pearls, just a jail jumpsuit and the weight of her own choices. The judge, Judge Harmon, no relation, 30 years on the bench, didn't waste words. "Miss Mitchell, you committed a violent, premeditated act against a law enforcement officer and government property. You endangered lives, you destroyed public resources, and you showed absolutely no remorse. In fact, you celebrated your crime on camera." Karen tried to speak. The judge silenced her. "I've reviewed the evidence, I've read your statements, and I find your actions reprehensible." Pause. Narrator's voice drops. The sentence? 9 years in state prison, mandatory minimum of 5 years before parole eligibility. Karen's face went white. $187,000 in restitution, covering the vehicle replacement, emergency response costs, investigation expenses, and cleanup. A lien placed on her home to ensure payment. Permanent ban from holding any HOA position in the state. Revocation of her professional licenses. She'd been a real estate agent. Pause. And a formal apology to be read into the record. She couldn't even get the words out, just sobbed into her hands while her lawyer read it for her. The HOA board collapsed within a month. 3 members resigned, 2 were voted out. The remaining one called for external oversight and dissolved Karen's enforcement committee entirely. The neighborhood changed, slowly. People started talking again, actually talking, not filing complaints or measuring grass or issuing fines. I still live there, still park my patrol car in the driveway. Nobody's complained since. Karen's house went into foreclosure 8 months later. The restitution payments were too much. A young couple bought it. Nice people, 2 kids, a dog. They asked me about the previous owner once. I told them the basics. They haven't asked again. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Was Karen just a control freak who went too far? Or was this the inevitable result of unchecked power and zero accountability? Did she deserve 9 years, or should the punishment have been harsher? And where do we draw the line between enforcing community standards and committing felonies? I'm genuinely curious what you think. Because somewhere out there, right now, there's another HOA president with a clipboard and a God complex. And maybe if they hear this story, they'll think twice before crossing the line from annoying to criminal. Because once you light that fire, you can't put it back out. And the authorities you thought you were above, they're going to show you exactly where you stand. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, respect the law, and remember, a badge might not make someone special, but a felony conviction will definitely make you a convict.